Hey everyone, I'm Sri Lakshmi S. This is class 37 of Kerala PSC HSA English. As per the syllabus, today I'm going to take the class on A.G. Gardiner's essay on the rule of the road. Alfred George Gardiner. He was an English journalist, editor, and author. His essays were written under the alias Alpha of the Plough. He was a chairman of the National Anti-Sweating League. His famous works are Pebbles on the Shore, Leaves in the Wind, Many Pharaohs, Prophets, Priests and Kings, etc. So let's go directly to the essay on the rule of the road. A stout old lady was walking with her basket down the middle of a street in Petrograd to the great confusion of the traffic and with no small peril to herself. So, this lady is very strong and old aged. She has a basket and she is walking down the middle of the street in St. Petersburg. And actually, she is making a traffic jam, but she is not concerned about that till she is not in danger. No peril to herself. Peril means danger. So she walks in the middle of the road in such a way that she has inherited that road from her family. So it was pointed out to her that the pavement was a place for foot passengers. You are supposed to walk on the pavement. But she replied, I am going to walk where I like. We have got liberty now. So that shows her stubbornness. She is going to walk on the middle of the road. Whatever you say, I am not going to listen to it. So it did not occur to the dear old lady that if liberty entitled the foot passenger to walk down the middle of the road, it also entitled the cab driver to drive on the pavement. So it is easy for a foot passenger to walk on the road, but it is difficult for a cab driver to drive on the pavement. What she says is okay, we have got liberty, what we can do anything what we like, but the circumstances, the situation should also be favorable. So think, if every people think like that and do whatever they like, what will be the situation? And that the end of such liberty would be universal chaos. Everybody would be getting in everybody's else way and nobody would get anywhere. Because one is hindering another person's liberty or independence. Individual liberty would have become social anarchy. Yeah, when personally she is she want to confirm that, or she want to assure her liberty, but it will be, or it will make a disordered social liberty, right? Just like her, other people also want to get to their destination, but she is not allowing others to move on. So here she is only concerned about her liberty, the individual liberty. When we are so much concerned about the individual liberty, it can hamper the social liberty. So social anarchy occurs, anarchy disorder. So there is a danger of the world getting liberty drunk. Liberty drunk means people are only concerned about their own liberty. So just like this old lady with the basket. And it is just as well to remind ourselves what the rule of the road means. So we have some rules. We have some traffic rules to obey. But She is not going to obey it. She has her own liberty. She is saying that she will do whatever she like. In her personal space, it is okay. But when we are in a social or in a public place, we have to also think about others' liberty. So it means that in order that the liberties of all may be preserved, the liberties of everybody may be curtailed. If each and every person are concerned about their own liberty, then what will be the whole situation? If one person tries to act as per his or her individual liberty, it will impose a restriction on others' liberty, or it will deprive someone else's liberty. When the policeman say at Piccadilly Circus is a road junction and public space of London's West End in the city of Westminster. So we have all seen policemen, traffic policemen at the middle of the road doing his own job. So when the policeman steps into the middle of the road and put up his hand, he is a symbol not of tyranny but of liberty. He don't want to make a confusion there. He just want to one by one he will allow each passengers to move on. If everyone moves at the same time as they like, there will be a traffic jam. So it is he who is controlling the whole traffic process. So it is not a harsh control over the people. It is not a tyranny. It is his liberty. He has a duty to maintain the road. But see, when you are in a hurry, you want to go somewhere, you may not think so. You may being in a hurry and seeing your motor car pulled up by this insolence of office. Insolence means a rude and disrespectful behavior. So when the policeman tells you to stop your car or bike, whatever, you will feel it as disrespectful. I want to go to this place and you are not allowing me to go. This is against my liberty. So you feel that your liberty has been outraged. So you will become anger. You will not show to that person, but in your mind you will be outraged. How dare this fellow interfere with my free use of the public highway? But then if you are a reasonable person, you will reflect, you will think that if he did not do it, there will be problems, accidents can happen. If he did not or incidentally interfere with you, he would interfere with no one, and the result would be that Piccadilly Circus would be a maelstrom that you would never cross at all. So he has a liberty to stop everyone, not only you. You are not the only person he's being stopped. He stops every other person just like you. If he didn't do it, that place, that junction would become in a disordered manner. A maelstrom means a situation or a state of confusion. So people will be shouting at each other and they will not be able to cross at all. So you have submitted to a curtailment of private liberty in order that you may enjoy a social order which makes your liberty a reality. So you just have to wait for a few minutes. Of course, there will be a breakage of your liberty for some time, but after that, you will be able to enjoy your liberty. There will be social order. In that way, your liberty will become a reality. So liberty is not a personal affair only. It is not only for you, but it is a social contract. Everyone has their own liberties. So when we come to a public space, we have to maintain everyone's liberty. It is a social contract. So it is an accommodation of interest. All have their own interest. All people are going to their own destinations, their own interest. So in matters which do not touch anybody else's liberty, of course, I may be as free as I like. Yes. In the case of individual liberty, when your liberty is not affecting to someone else's liberty, then okay, you can do whatever you like. So if I choose to go down the strand in a dressing gown with long hair and bare feet, who shall say me nay? You are going through the road with the dress you like, and you did not tie your hair, you are disheveling your hair, and with bare feet you walk on the road. No one will say no to you. You have the liberty to laugh at me, but I have liberty to be indifferent to you. Okay, that's the next thing. You have to wear your dress as you like. No one will say no to you. You can laugh at other people, that's your liberty, and just like that they have the liberty to be indifferent to you. They can ask you why you are laughing at me. That's their liberty. And if I have a fancy for dyeing my hair, if I want to color my hair, yes, I can. Or waxing my mustache, even heaven forbid. Okay, you want to wax your mustache, then okay. Or wearing a tall hat, a fro coat and sandals, or going to bed late, or getting up early, I shall follow my fancy and ask no man's permission. These are things very personal for you. These kind of things, the dress you wear, the sandals you wear, the way you eat, the way you go to bed. So all these matters are only up to you. You need not ask others' permission. I shall not inquire of you whether I may eat mustard with mutton. In which way I have to eat. I should not ask for another person. I may eat as I like. I may like mustard with my mutton. You may not, but I have the liberty to eat like that. And you will not ask me whether you may be a Protestant or a Catholic, whether you may marry the dark lady or the fair lady. You have no right to ask my religion, why I choose it, or something like that. You should not ask why I have chose this partner, why I have married this girl or this man, whether you may prefer Ella, Willer, Wilcox to Wordsworth, which writer I like, who is my favorite writer. That is not your problem, that's my problem. Or champagne or shandygaff. Whether I like champagne, you may not. That's not my problem. I like champagne to shandygaff. Shandygaff is a beer diluted with a non-alcoholic drink. So all these things, all personal likings are our liberty, individual liberty. So others have no right to question on these kind of matters. So in all these things and 1,000 other details, you and I please ourselves and ask no one else's leave. So things like these, and there are also many other personal liberties, and for that there is no need of asking permission for others. It's only up to us. So we have a whole kingdom in which we rule alone, can do what we choose, be wise or ridiculous, harsh or easy, conventional or odd. So it's a huge world in front of us. In case of our matter, in case of our personal matters, we can take any decision. So just like we have the liberty, others also have the same liberty. But directly we step out of that kingdom, our personal liberty of action becomes qualified by other persons or other people's liberty. So in our kingdom, in our space, our liberty matters. But when we step out of that kingdom, when we come to a public space or a social kingdom, we have to think about others' liberties also. I might like to practice on the trombone. Trombone is a large brass wind instrument. So you may feel to play this trombone from midnight till 3 in the morning. That's your liberty, that's your wish. But if I went on to the top of the Helvellyn, it's a mountain on the Lake District, to do it, I could please myself. Yes, it's a mountain area. I can please myself, I can enjoy myself because there will be not much people on that mountain area. But if I do it in my bedroom, my family will object, of course, because it's midnight, it's sleeping time. It would be a nuisance for other people, not only to your family but also to the neighbors. And okay, if I step out of my house and if I do it out in the streets, of course, the neighbors will scold you. The neighbors will remind me that my liberty to blow the trombone must not interfere with their liberty to sleep in quiet. So, at the midnight, I feel to play trombone. That's my liberty. But everyone else's midnight liberty is to sleep. So there are a lot of people in this world, and I have to accommodate my liberty to their liberties. In a social space, we have to consider others' liberty too. If you are doing your actions without hampering others' peace of mind, then it's okay. But in some cases, we are all liable to forget this. We are all likely to do what becomes, sometimes it becomes a nuisance for others. And unfortunately, we are much more conscious of the imperfections of others in this respect than our own. And we people are very much, interested in finding faults with others. But we will not be doing it in our own case. That's a natural tendency of every human being. I got into a railway carriage at a country station the other morning and settled down for what the schoolboys would call an hour's swat at a blue book. So, our writer got into a railway carriage with a blue book and he began to read it. SWOT means studying it with great care and perseverance. So, blue book has different meanings. It can be a register of socially prominent people. It can be a blue covered booklet. It can be a book of specialized information often published under government auspices. And it can be a periodically published price list. So here he was not reading it for pleasure. The truth is that I never do read blue books for pleasure. I read them as a barrister reads a brief for the very humble purpose of turning an honest penny out of them. So he has bought it. He was reading just for the sake of reading. Now, if you're reading a book for pleasure, it doesn't matter what is going on around you. Because you are not reading for some definite purpose. You are not highly concentrated into it like you are reading for an exam. This is just for a pleasure. So whatever happens around you doesn't matter. But when you are reading for an exam, whatever if there is any noise or disturbance, it will really matter you, right? So I think I could enjoy Tristram Shandy or Treasure Island in the midst of an earthquake. So that's my liberty of while reading for pleasure, I will read it. There is no problem whatever will happen around me. So but when you are reading a thing as a task, you need reasonable quiet, right? When you are reading for an exam purpose or you are highly concentrated in it, you want perfect silence. And that is what I didn't get. He was reading the blue book And at that time, some men came and began to disturb him. For at the next station in came a couple of men, one of whom talked to his friend for the rest of the journey in a loud and pompous voice. It is really annoying when we are, highly interested in reading something, and you get disturbed by some other person with who has a loud and pompous voice, disturbing voice. So he was one of those people who remind one of that story of Tom Took, who, meeting a person of immense swagger in the street, stopped him and said, "Excuse me, sir, but are you someone in particular?" So Tom Took is a person who will ask stupid questions to those who maybe they are passing through the road in a hurry for some purpose, and he will ask stupid question like this: are you someone in particular? Are you an important person? So this gentleman was someone in particular, just like Tom Took. He was just simply making so much noise and want to show off himself. So as I wrestled with clauses and sections as he was reading the blue book, his voice rose like a gale, just like a storm. And his family history, he is just blah blah blah, making too much noise, telling about everything he want to say, whatever comes to his mind, the deeds of his sons in the war, and his criticisms of the generals and the politicians submerged my poor attempts to hang on to my job. So our writer was not able to concentrate on reading. This person was kept on saying one thing after the other. I shut up the blue book. That's the only thing that I could have done. Looked out of the window and listened barely while the voice thundered on with themes like these. So our writer realized that there is no point of reading further. He just closed his book and began to look out through the window. And at the same time, what was going on the background? Dialogues like this: now what French ought to have done, the mistake the Germans made. If only Asquith is a British statesman. So he's telling about politics, war, many things like that. So you know the sort of stuff. I had heard it all before, oh so often. So when you go to this public spaces, we will be able to see these kind of people and these kind of talks. So it was like a barrel groaning out some banal song of long ago. Barrel organ is a small pipe organ, and for Gardiner, it felt like this barrel organ is being played, and it's with a creaking sound, groaning out some banal song. Banal song means unimportant, which is not needed. Unimportant song of long ago, because we all know these things. It's a history. It's a part of history. We all know the political things that are going on. So this person is detailing everything in such a manner that he is only the one who know all these things. So it was an irrelevant conversation. So it was his liberty, but he was hampering the liberty of our writer to read the blue book. So if I had asked him to be good enough to talk in a lower tone, I dare say he would have thought I was a very rude fellow. So if our writer say to this person that please lower your voice, he will say that you are a rude fellow. Who are you to say to lower my voice? So it did not occur to him that anybody could have anything better to do than to listen to him. So what others can do is just listen to him. And I have no doubt he left the carriage convinced that everybody in it had, thanks to him, had a very illuminating journey and would carry away a pleasing impression of his encyclopedic range. So that is his impression. Everybody was listening to him. Like just like he's an encyclopedia, he's a walking encyclopedia, and everyone is very much impressed with him. And he gave a lot of knowledge to him. It was a very illuminating journey, the whole journey. So he was obviously a well-intentioned person. He had some intention. He know how to behave like this. He's always doing like this during every journey. So he has that intention to tell everything to other people, whatever comes to his mind. So the thing that was wrong with him was that he had not the social sense. He don't know how to behave with people. That's a problem. He don't have that sense. He was not a clubbable man. Clubbable man means he's not a suitable person to be with others. If he had that sense, he would have lower his voice, he would have limited his talk, and maybe he should enjoy the travel, see what other the scenery through the window, and let also others do whatever they like. So he was not a clubbable man.